Whilst this is one of my favourite flyable ships in Star Citizen, it also has some notable drawbacks. So, despite looking incredible and being a popular option, how does it stack up in the game right now? I'm Forrester, and in this video I review the Star Citizen ship, the currently flyable RSI Constellation Aquila. As with some of the most interesting ships, she's multi-crew capable with interesting roles for a second or third player and is described as an exploration ship. For the purposes of this video, I'll simply pronounce this as the Constellation Aquila in my native tongue. And as Star Citizen is currently in alpha testing, it's important to point out that this video reviews how the ship performs in-game right now and tries to avoid speculating about what might change in the future. For those of you who've seen other ship reviews on this channel, you know the drill by now. This video is split into 5 sections, starting with a ship tour, assessing combat performance, reviewing handling and visibility, looking at the operating costs before finally summarising. I've included timestamps in the video description to help navigate to each part of the review. And if you're one of the 3/4 of people watching who isn't yet subscribed to the channel, you may choose to subscribe to be notified of future videos. Part 1. Ship Tour. And for most players you'll gain entry into your Constellation Aquila via an elevator just beneath the nose of the ship. This takes you up into what is called Section B. The Constellation series has 4 sections from A to D at the front to the rear. Within Section A, you'll find the bridge. There's access to both of the turrets, which is a lower combat turret and an upper scanning turret, as well as a central pilot's chair and 2 co-pilot seats. And of course, the panoramic glass cockpit. Moving backwards through the ship, you'll see component access, as we make it into Section B in the midships. The elevator airlock is below. Off to the side there is a bathroom facility. And there's seating and a table. Above you there is a docking port. And there's a weapons rack and 4 bunks for the crew. These do work in-game, so you can log out in them. Moving back through to Section C, and this is the cargo storage section of the Aquila. You can see there's plenty of room for a rover. You see the missiles, and on either side there are an additional docking port. Within this section of the Constellation there is also 96 cargo units of storage. There's some component access, and on either sides of this rover bay is a ladder to get up and down. Moving further back through the ship, almost at the rear of the Constellation, there's a small room which has access to more components, and then right at the back is the docking port for the Snub Merlin. Sadly, due to an accident, the Merlin is missing on this ship. Part 2. Combat Performance. In line with other ships in the Constellation series, the pilot armament on the Aquila consists of 4 gimbal size 4 weapons, defaulting to laser cannons. Those gimbals can be swapped out for size 5 fixed weapons, although in this instance I'd suggest keeping the gimbals as they offer much more flexibility without having to be pinpoint precise. You'll notice I've swapped out the default weapons in favour of ballistic repeaters, which is my go-to loadout in this ship. And keeping the size 4 weapons on gimbals, the Aquila offers surprisingly good combat performance. It's responsive enough to keep weapons on target, and with size 4 weapons and upwards, that punching power is enough to deal with some quite meaty ships, often on a single pass. Once you get into the melee, it can get a little tougher to keep the nose back on target, so if you can, you may want to try and engage at medium range. At this point, it would be great to say that if you do get into the melee, the Aquila is supported by the Snub Merlin and a turret gunner, assuming you have the crew for them. Sadly, only the lower turret is armed, with the upper turret used for sensors, and that lower turret with dual size 2 weapons doesn't have the best firing arcs, often leaving it unable to engage targets. And the Merlin, whilst great fun, is unlikely to offer the stopping power needed to clean targets from your hull. That said, the current AI opponents shouldn't cause you much trouble if that's where you spend your time. Those weapons are supported by 24 size 2 missiles, which are a little tougher to handle in the Constellation. That's because those missiles are really designed for use against smaller fighters, meaning you have to be quite close range before you fire them, at which point your target is manoeuvring. They're still a useful addition, but you might struggle to use all 24 missiles, and so a smaller number of bigger missiles might have been a better design choice. In terms of shields, the Constellation offers dual size 2 shield generators. They do a decent enough job and protect you well against smaller ships, although you might expect them to be stronger for a ship of this size, so you will want to keep an eye on your shield strength when engaging heavier hitting targets. Part 3. Handling and Visibility. Starting with visibility, and that canopy at the front of the ship is a really unique feature of the Constellation Aquila. It looks great, and although there are a few too many RSI supporting struts, actually you get pretty good visibility out to the front, sides, below and above, which for a ship that targets explorers is a really good thing. As a little nuance, the inclusion of lots of multifunction display screens for the pilot is also a real plus for those times when you're flying solo. And you'd be forgiven for thinking that a ship of this size would be slow, but it really isn't. With an SCM speed of 145 meters per second and a maximum straight line speed of just shy of 1000 meters per second, those engines at the back of the Aquila really help to drive reasonable performance. Don't get me wrong, you'll feel that this is a heavier ship when you start throwing it around. For example, if you're not really precise with your rudder controls, the nose will definitely overswing. But that's in quite a predictable way, almost just to remind you that this is a ship on the heavier side. The inclusion of VTOL thrusters makes planet side manoeuvring a little easier, and you can push a fairly generous amount of afterburner or boost before getting overheating warnings, even as stock. As with other ships in the Constellation series, you may often find that during landing you get a lot of nose wobble. This is an easy ship to land, but a very difficult ship to land without creating that wobble, due to the way the landing gear works and only being at the rear of the ship. That said, if you don't mind scraping your chin, the engines are powerful enough to land and take off in a really controlled manner. The stock quantum drive, the Bolon, is simply awful, so you may want to make that an early upgrade. Even with an upgrade to a top-tier quantum drive, the Aquila has more than enough range to comfortably traverse the Stanton system with fuel to spare, which, for a ship advertised for the exploration market, is a good design choice. Part 4. Operating costs. The Aquila is a medium-sized ship, and accordingly you could reasonably expect to see rearm, refuel or repair costs into the low thousands, or even into the tens of thousands if you really pushed it. But critically, the Aquila offers a lot of different options to make that cash back. Starting with combat, a skilled player could feasibly take on any of the combat contracts in-game and come out on top. And given the profitability of those missions in the current patch, that could be popular for many. The Aquila also has 96 cargo units of storage, which is enough to start making some reasonable returns from cargo trading. The fact that the Constellation is so easy to land makes it an attractive option for a first cargo hauler. And of course, that space could also be used for any type of box delivery or collection type contract too. And finally, the Constellation has more seats than jobs for players to do, so if you wanted to make a little bit of money from time to time by accepting player transport missions, you could be fairly sure to have room aboard. Part 5. The verdict. The Constellation Aquila is a great looking ship. The orange accents, the inline missile bays, the wide-angle glass cockpit, all of these make it distinctive and an attractive sight in the verse. The Aquila is the third in the Constellation series that I've reviewed on the channel, and also inherits many of the other positive features of the other Constellation class ships, with one notable exception: the scanning turret, which is functionally useless in the game at the moment, and therefore considerably less useful than the Andromeda or Phoenix, who have a working, firing combat turret in its place. At the moment, that scanning turret only really serves to look like one of the Jurassic Park dinosaurs. That's not to say it couldn't be useful in the future, as either more scanning gameplay or even operator modes come online, but right now it's a little gimmicky. And in the hope of future gameplay, the Aquila also has a lot of other potentially useful features, such as the multiple beds, multiple crew stations, the now working snub fighter, and ample internal cargo storage. But most of those serve a limited or no function in the game at the moment. All of that said, the Aquila is still a really solid performer in-game. The cargo bay can load a variety of different ground vehicles, it'll make money in almost any way you like, it'll hold its own in combat, and it'll look great doing that. It's just a little less effective than the cheaper Andromeda owing to that lost turret. If you want to buy yourself an Aquila, you can pick one up in-game for just shy of 5 million Alpha UEC. That's quite a steep ask, especially considering that's more expensive than a Drake Caterpillar and only a little cheaper than an Argo Mole, both of which are specialised civilian money-making ships. And although the $310 ship includes the bundled Exploration Rover and Snub Fighter, that's still considerably more expensive than the $275 Andromeda starter package, which also includes game access. And that's what makes this a tough review. The Aquila is great, it has personality, it has style, but it's not as strong in-game at the moment as its cheaper sibling, which leaves me thinking you'd probably only buy this either for the wonderful looks, or hoping that in the future the exploration gameplay might make this ship more appealing. But do you agree? What do you think of the Constellation Aquila? Share in the comments, I always find it really interesting to read and respond. If you enjoyed this video, please press that like button, and you may also be interested in my review of the Constellation Phoenix. Otherwise, as always, thank you for watching.